welcome to the Valvebounce for the wrap-up of the Abu Dhabi Formula 1 Grand Prix. I'm Damien.
Steve.
And I'm going to start with disappointment.
Disappointment, Damo. What's going on?
Ferrari, god damn it.
You didn't predict that one well, did you?
I just typical Ferrari fan. You hope, you dream, they fail.
Look, it wasn't always the case. I mean,
No.
It has been a very long time since Ferrari really properly succeeded. So yes, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I definitely feel your
We'll
pain.
touch on what they did with Sainz a little later on, but yeah, let's kick off with some news and results. And I guess congratulations, Max and Perez.
Yes.
Probably should have had a 1-2 Red Bull last year, but Max had a little hissy fit, if you remember last year. But finally this year, they have done it.
They have. Congratulations to Red Bull Racing and to Max on a unbelievable year. Which we'll touch on, I'm sure. But yes, I don't know, Damo. It's absolute domination. That's all I've got to say on that.
Yeah. I guess saying it's starting to really hit home. He finished so far in advance that even Hamilton was, the dominant king himself has managed to say, "Oh, this is a bit too much." So, but yeah, like leading over 1,000 laps, and I'll get to some of the bigger stats. I've got a whole list that I'll read off for you, just on what he's accomplished. But yeah, leading over 1,000 laps and 19 wins of the season was pure dominance. So yes,
I don't think we'll see that again.
Yes.
Honestly, I really don't.
Yeah, there's always these firsts, and we never thought we'd see someone match Schumacher, and then Hamilton finally did, and so I'm sure there's probably more to come. If you're happy or sad about that, I don't know.
Yeah, well, one camp or the other, I guess.
Yeah, true. So I guess now let's talk about Leclerc. He had a strong finish, but that finish was a bit unique, strange.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, we'll touch on a bit later about what we think about it. But he was trying to secure second, and he really wanted to. So he knew Perez had the penalty, so he was trying to drag him forward, and so therefore hopefully could maintain it for Ferrari, but didn't quite work out, did it?
No, well, it doesn't work out for Ferrari in the end. But I mean, we'll touch on Sainz, but that was a pretty bad weekend for him. But yeah, definitely playing some games in the later stages of the race to try and force an outcome, but didn't work.
Didn't really work, yeah. And I guess that means Russell, we had a great return to form.
He did.
Pretty happy to get himself on the podium, I'd say.
I'd say he'd be ecstatic after the year he's had.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroyed by Lewis, really, and
yeah, and he made he had the opportunities. Singapore, he could have had a better result there and didn't. So it really was, a nice cap to a tough, challenging year for Russell.
Yeah, I think he'll have a better 2024, that is for sure.
Well, if they can get the car right, of course.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. The other one's gone in the bin, we know that. But obviously we then had Yuki Tsunoda on a blinder, mate. Finished sixth overall. Yeah,
just did everything that he possibly could to try and get there. Led the Grand Prix for 4 laps, with Tost departing. This was his final race.
It was.
So he did a great job. Again, I guess it was a bit of the strategy play out for this Grand Prix of those that it worked and those that didn't. He was definitely one that just didn't have anything to fight with in the later closing parts of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, it was a one-stop strategy for him, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. So that's hard on anything really, and they don't have the fastest car. I feel like they should be going the aggressive strategy almost all the time, but
I think look, they rolled the dice, and I guess when you're trying to achieve a greater result than you probably should do, because obviously the volume of cars at the top, you don't know that Hamilton's going to have a shocker and he's going to actually be behind you. But you roll the dice on the strategy to be different, and then hopefully safety car works or doesn't work for you, and that's just what happened.
And there's nothing wrong with P6 at all.
Yeah.
Well done, Yuki. I'll actually give you a clap. That's probably your strongest race of the year.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely been much better, and part of that might be down to Daniel. Daniel had a shocker. I mean...
Well, look, it was bad, but he only just missed points in the end. He finished 11th.
Yeah, he did.
So he made up a little bit, but yeah, again, it's a bit of consistency I'm feeling on that side. We need to see a little bit more consistent towards where they're both at. They should be together. There shouldn't be this separate, because I almost feel like Yuki has a shocker, Daniel has a good one, Daniel has a shocker, Yuki has a good one. If that team needs to move forward, that consistency needs to be there. So Daniel, pick it up a little bit.
Do better.
Do better.
Do better. Okay. That could apply to me with my coughing fits lately. Okay. So Williams finished 7th in the construction championship based on the results from AlphaTauri. But one group that actually had a weird bloody Grand Prix but still managed to secure their spot was McLaren. Yeah. They really were trying to chase down but just had no pace.
I think they decided they were going to go out and try and actually chase and see if they could maybe get a win. Maybe that was a theory behind it. I know they were in a fairly strong position with both drivers. So they chased hard. Unfortunately, the tyres didn't hang on. So they sort of just slowly fell away. Something they can work on. I mean, they would have gotten great data from doing that because they'll now know where that fall off is without just being nice to the tyres, because I'm sick of nice to tyres.
Yeah, everyone wants to be nice to tyres.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely had a bit of, not a shocker, but not as strong as it has been. Yeah,
and I guess even some of the results, I know, with the qualifying there was a bit of a misstep there, but Piastri still kind of looked good, and so I thought the pace was going to be there, and then just couldn't carry it over the length of the Grand Prix. So
no, definitely not.
But yeah, looking really good for 2024, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking. I mean, it's got to be said now that I'm actually looking forward to seeing the cars next year, and just what they look like and changes that they make, because I feel like Ferrari's going to bring a very different car, Mercedes is going to bring a very different car, McLaren will bring revision, of course.
I would say,
and Red Bull theoretically won't be able to revise much. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it could be a very different 2024.
It could. But yeah, Aston, they had that backward step. So Aston's one that were obviously then trying to fight for that position.
Yep.
The changes that they made didn't work, and then they've reverted or made some adjustments, and it seems like they've been able to drag it back. Stroll's kind of been able to come up the grid a little bit, and Alonso now has something to fight with. So that was not a bad result at the tail end. They just had those races in the after the summer break that really hurt them. Yeah,
definitely hurt them a lot. Right at the time of McLaren really finding the pace. So it just didn't work out in the end, and had Stroll had a stronger start to his season, maybe that chase by McLaren would have been a bit harder.
Yep.
But ultimately, yeah, they clearly made some changes that weren't right, and they've now dialed that back, and it seems to be working more effectively now. Yeah. So hopefully they're understanding it, because it does feel a little bit like they got a bit lost in that middle section.
Yeah, they did. Well, let's touch on Sainz, because he let's wrap up a little bit of his weekend, because he really had an absolute shocker, and in the end, DNF in the race. But it started really from the FP2 crash.
Yeah.
I'd love to sort of get your thoughts, because we've seen two very similar crashes with that look to be ride height and bump dependent. Yep. The Norris one at Vegas, and now Abu Dhabi with Sainz. So yeah, bit of a shocker. It was just no control at all. No,
so almost Ayrton Senna-esque type of incident where the car bottoms out, and then you just have no steering. It doesn't matter what you're going to do from that point.
You're done.
Yep. So really high-speed impact, and I'm glad that Carlos is okay. Obviously, we have a lot better safety in the series now than we used to back in 1994, but very similar style impact.
And I hope we don't see more of that as the teams kind of get to that ride height limit.
Yeah.
Where if they're slightly off track, like off the solid line they need to be, they're hitting a bump they're not expecting, and that we're just seeing these uncontrollable crashes. Because that's not going to be a good outcome for anyone.
No, it must be the way so the suspension has to be really stiff, right? So it must be a level of they've softened it up enough, because they've got the minimum ride height that they're supposed to operate in.
Yep.
But they must just be trialling to get a little bit more mechanical grip into the cars, perhaps, and then that's making it
bottom out.
And you know, they want to run as low as they can and as loose as they can, I guess. Like, not, you want to compliant, yeah. So that their drivers are comfortable as well. But yeah, just unfortunately we've had a couple of big ones in the last two, haven't we?
Yeah, and then his whole race just went to the strategy that they deployed for that was was terrible.
Well, it's just Ferrari, isn't it?
Just I shouldn't say terrible. They just make the wrong choice. Put him onto that hard compound after the first stop just really hurt him.
Yeah, it certainly did.
Yeah, so it was just a disaster when they're fighting for that championship position.
Yeah.
And they just felt like they just had nothing.
Yeah, they didn't. When they needed science there, it just didn't work. The strategy, nothing worked. It just was a bit of a nightmare run for them, other than Leclerc having a stronger finish, I guess, to the whole season. So
he did. Yes. He did.
Moving on from that, another one. Hulk had a big smash. Hulk smash.
His was more driver error, where he went a bit wide. But geez, that was just like, we haven't seen really too many crashes this year, considering.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just a bit of a driver error, and yeah. So I know your feelings on Haas and maybe where they should and shouldn't be, but yeah, that doesn't help at all when Hulk seems to be able to have such highs and lows, and that was just a shocker mistake.
I just feel like the problem with Haas is that the drivers have to push so bloody hard to get anything from it. And I think that's when we see things like this occurring again, where they start to have accidents. And I feel for Mick Schumacher, because I honestly don't think he should have been booted when he was. I think they should have given him a bit more time. But I do feel like Haas now at a crossroad where they really need to start either trying to invest in this properly or potentially just leave, because it's embarrassing. Like, it's not even like Minardi days embarrassing. It's worse. Like, it's so bad.
Yeah, it's not great. We'll touch on that a little bit more in the next segment too, just on your thoughts and feelings on that one.
Yes.
Something that I did see in the news, which was a massive shock, was the entry fees for 2024. Now, the entry fees that the FIA charge the drivers to have their licence are based on how many points you have. Max has a €1.22 million fee just to be a driver, just to turn up. 1.22. His teammate, who was second in the championship, has 609,000 euros. So effectively half, because of the way the points worked.
Wow. What?
Just absolute God no, you talk about these guys who earn big bucks, right? I can't imagine earning, what do you reckon? I don't actually know what Max is on, but probably
neither do I.
20, 30 million euro?
No, he's higher than that.
Is he? He's up 50, 60, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the last report I heard was somewhere around the 50 bracket, so he is definitely on that. But it's a big chunk of change coming out.
Just 1 million of that just wiped straight off.
I mean, most of us would be happy
to the FIA. Well, yeah, that's like a Tatslotto win for most of us.
That's a great Christmas present to the FIA, isn't it?
What the hell? We could talk about how bad or terrible the FIA are, but let's not. But that's obviously a great Christmas party for them.
That's huge. That's covered everything. They don't even have to pay for a cent. Fantastic. Well done, FIA.
Yeah, caviar and champagne. Right?
Beauty.
Yes. Well, let's move to the next section, which we're still working on the name, but we're kind of basing it on a fair or a bias. We're going to give some hot takes or some little commentary on what's happened and some news, and then figure out whether we're actually being a bit fair or whether you think it's reasonable.
And you please feel free to drop in the comments whether you think we're being biased or fair in this case. So,
yes.
So we'll ask some questions. Do you want to read the first one out, Damo?
All right. So
there we go, eh?
Leclerc's last-ditched effort failed to secure Ferrari's second in the championship. Do you think it was unsporting?
Oh, it's right on the cusp. Look, I love Leclerc. I do love him. He's a great driver. I don't like Perez did to Hamilton in 21.
Yeah.
I'm not an overall fan of a car trying to manipulate an outcome.
Yep.
I think it's smart. You look at Sainz and what he did in Singapore, for instance, to secure the win and things like that. I get that side of it, but I get it less when it's about trying to manipulate a result in a Constructors' Championship. I don't. Yeah, I think it's a little bit fair. I'm probably 60-40. What about you?
I think it's fair. I think that we have so many of those unwritten rules around the way the team orders work, around as they're a perfect example, Saints backing up to give DRS to Lando. These things happen a lot. There's one we'll touch on which I absolutely don't think was right, and that was about a DRS with Alonso. We'll touch on that a bit later.
Yeah.
So I think it's all fair.
Yeah,
I think. It seemed like I wish the Ferrari team were actually intelligent enough to tell him it's not going to make a licking difference. Yeah. That's what they should have said.
But we know that communication is not their strong point.
True.
All right, Damo, so moving right along.
Yep.
Lando will never become champion unless he finds a way to keep calm in key moments.
Ooh. I'm going to say... it's fair. It's a little biased. It's fair. Only because I sort of feel like if he doesn't secure a win, now if the car's capable next year, if he goes another year where he has some mistakes happen or he's unlucky and he doesn't secure a win, I'd say this is absolutely 100% fair.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, maybe a little biased because, it's hot topic. Lando's not really just in those key moments able to secure a win or secure a position like the real champions always do, right? So there's definitely question marks there. I think at the moment maybe a little biased, but maybe okay.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think right at this point in time it's fair. He just has a couple of little things to clean up, and it's just right at those key moments, whether it's qualifying or in the race, just those little things that just need to be tidied up a bit, and no doubt he'll be able to win races and so forth if he does. So I think it is absolutely 110% fair.
Okay, all right. So this next one...
Nope.
This might be a hot take. I will be reading through some stuff because I need to give it the best possible opportunity for Stephen to actually consider it.
All right, hit me.
Max Verstappen, has he taken the mantle of being the greatest Formula One driver ever? I mean, that's probably a little bit too much, but let me just I'll just read through these off the phone. So this is the 2023 records, okay?
Okay.
Highest win percentage in a season.
Yep.
Most wins in a season.
Yep.
Most consecutive wins. Most consecutive wins from pole. Most hat-tricks in a season. Most podiums in a season. Most points in a season. Most consecutive top 2 finishes. Most laps led in a season, which was a massive one.
Yep.
Most pit stops to win a race, so they're doing that on the time.
Oh.
Most races left after becoming champion, so he won it earlier than most. Most consecutive races as a championship leader, and the biggest championship gap to P2. that is the 2023 scorecard, report card for Max.
Right, what's my take on that? That's a lot to take in. And again, congratulations to Max, because that's an outstanding year. Is he the best we've ever seen? That's really tough, because every time we have this type of debate, it's all dependent on time, car, everything, and we know that has an impact. But what you can definitely 110% say is he's the most ruthless. He will absolutely not stop until he completely annihilates everything and anyone in his way. That's my take.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, he's definitely not the greatest ever. He will certainly, if he can maintain this, if he can beat Schumacher's drivers' championships or Hamilton's.
Sorry.
You thought of something else?
I just saw, because I saw a stat the other day which I forgot to actually add. So Schumacher achieved 54 wins earlier than Verstappen. So there is one that he can never
beat.
So, Schumi.
Well done, Schumi.
but yeah, sorry, keep going.
No, that's an important one, because that really is, that's great to hear.
Yeah, it is.
Being a Schumacher lover, of course. Yeah, so, really, he's got many, many years before I would put him into the bucket of talking about being the greatest, right?
Yeah.
The other hot take from this is that I don't feel that Hamilton is the greatest ever. I still think Schumacher is for me.
Yeah, look, I agree.
He's on par. I would say 1 and 2, maybe even equal first. If Hamilton had achieved the 8th, I probably would tip my lid to him and say yes. But I still think that, some of those stats that Schumacher had, the way he went about was he got there faster, he did a few more things. Hamilton had other records that he achieved, which was great, but yeah, so I think for me, he'd have to overtake Hamilton before I would be in the ballpark or saying that he's the greatest.
I think for me, when I look at the greatest of all time, I think back to the types of cars that like Schumacher started in and pulled a result from.
Yeah.
Whereas Max and Lewis, Max less so because he came from Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
But they were still relatively competitive at that point. When Schumi jumped into the Jordan, it really wasn't like spectacular,
no.
and he sort of dragged a result from it. And then he went to Benetton, who at that time weren't
great,
that strong. And then suddenly he was champion within 2 years of joining. Like there's a lot of things that make this up, and it's really hard. What is undeniable is right now in this time frame, he's undoubtedly the greatest driver in the field at this given point. But that doesn't mean that he's better than Hamilton over a period of time.
Greater than, wow.
Well, at this given time, with the right car, and he hasn't had a teammate, so you can't teammate hasn't gotten close to him yet. Danny Rick's the last one to get anywhere near him.
Yeah, I agree, but you look at Hamilton, he actually had competitive teammates.
Yeah, there's that
and so
as well.
Really, Hamilton, if he'd had softer teammates, he probably would have even greater numbers, and he would have had the 8th championship because Rosberg wouldn't have beaten him. So, yeah.
And look, and that Rosberg championship, to be perfectly fair, was due to a lot of reliability issues on the 44, not so much the actual being out-raced. Yeah. So that's something we all tend to forget a little bit about. Nico's a great driver, but he's nowhere. I don't think he was anywhere near Hamilton's level in personal opinion.
Of course. Well, that's what it's all about. All right.
Absolutely.
Let's get off reminiscing. Let's go to the next one.
Yes.
What have you got for me?
So, Yuki Tsunoda is a better prospect than Daniel Ricciardo for the 2nd Red Bull seat. Damo?
Ooh. I don't know. Okay, get off the fence. No. I think Yuki has shown great improvement. Yeah. I think he's almost at that level. I just think that that if Danny gets into the car you're going to get this performance from him.
Yeah.
If Yuki goes to the car, you still have those questions. Well, will he actually be able to get up there? How is he going to cope with the pressure of being with Max? I don't think he's quite ready. I think another solid season and some really good performance, maybe mentally, physically, all of that stuff, he'll be right.
Yep.
I don't think so just yet.
Yep, I do tend to agree with you. I think he's come on strong this year because he's had, well, at the start he had a weak opponent in Nick De Vries. But once Daniel turned up, Yuki understood just what it was to be a driver, not just in the car, but what you needed to do outside of the car.
Yeah.
And I think he learnt a lot from that.
Yeah, agree.
And when Liam came in and was as quick, he then realised that all those things really add up. So he's definitely improved greatly in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Liam was probably a big eye-opener for him because Liam's got a... I guess that there's this feeling about him, about the way he goes about things, that he is very methodical and dedicated, which is kind of the opposite of how Yuki started, although he's better now.
Yes.
And so having Danny and then Liam probably has helped him no end to becoming better.
Because the only way you improve, no matter what, is being benchmarked against somebody else on the same equipment. It doesn't matter anywhere else. So, that is 100% it. So you just keep going. And look, Yuki, keep doing what you're doing because I think Damien's right. Come end of next year, I think we might be having a different discussion. Yeah, potentially.
Well, I think so. And it makes sense because he is younger. That if he can get there, he'd definitely be the best spot to go.
Absolutely.
But, all right. Oof. Let's talk about a bit of a left field. And Andretti Global, I think they're called now. Yes. It's a Andretti United Motorsport conglomerate, whatever. Are they a better prospect than possibly, well, definitely than some, but more than half the field? Do you think half the field would get shown up if Andretti joined?
I don't know if they get shown up, but I do think the way Andretti are positioning themselves, they are a better prospect than at least 2 or 3 on the grid. So, and no offence to AlphaTauri, but because they are the second Red Bull team, they're never going to progress any further than that sort of 5th on the grid potentially, right? Haas, I've spoken about Haas at length, that what I think of them and where I think they should be, which is not on the F1 grid. I really wish Gene would just pack up and go because they're just an embarrassment to the sport, in my opinion.
Yep, okay.
And that's just how I feel about them. Go 2-3 years ago, I didn't feel that way, but I really do now. They're just dry, just bonkers.
I think that's fair in terms of the Haas stuff, definitely.
And then Williams... I love Williams, right? I've got such a... I love what their heritage and everything else, but I need to see them making steps forward. And if by keeping... I really thought they'd remove Logan and show that they're serious, but they haven't. And it just...
I wonder if that's going to be their biggest downfall because, I mean, basically Albon carried Williams...
Yeah.
Right, he just did everything. Scored all the points. Well, not all. I think there was one set of points that Logan got, wasn't there? So
one. He got 1 point.
There was penalties, and he got he just carried the whole team. And you just think if you had, a Liam Lawson and an Albon.
Yep.
Just think how much further up the grid they could be. So, look, they've got to own. Williams have got to own it, or Dorovic, what was it?
Dorovic now,
or whatever it is that own them.
Yeah.
They've got to own that they're deciding who the drivers are, and that is impacting their results, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So look. I think they've got James Vale there now.
Yep.
Oh, God. Anyway. Ex-Mercedes, so he's obviously a strong figurehead that they can build the rest of the team around. I think they get the drivers right.
Then they move up the grid.
So I think they're one that, yes, it's probably a bit biased by me, thinking, because I do love them. So, that would take them out. But, I think Haas, it comes down to investment, they've got two drivers that should be capable, and they're not. So is it the car? Is it whatever else? You've got AlphaTauri who are struggling. You've got the prospect of Audi because obviously Sauber are down there at the moment. Alpha. Alfa Romeo, sorry. But they're going to turn into Audi, so that's kind of like a holding pattern.
It's a holding pattern, yeah.
But you'd say, if Audi are going to come in, that Andretti would be equal, to lifting them up. So maybe not half the field, but at least, 3 or 4 of them, they're a better prospect. And that doesn't mean that they come in and they would wash them straight out the door. I'm not saying that it would take a few years to build, but
the way they're going about it just suggests to me that this is a serious campaign. They want to get into F1, but not just be in F1. They want to compete at the top. So that's where I suppose that sort of comes from. All right, Damo. So let's move on to the next. We touched on that one, so I'll skip this one and go to the following, which is. Lewis Hamilton in a Red Bull would be the equivalent of career suicide.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, the start of the weekend, Christian Horner dropped this kind of bombshell that, Lewis was talking to me, he wanted to figure out if he wanted to come to us, and then Lewis was like, man, no one from my team, I've checked into it, no one's said anything, and then Christian then replied saying, I spoke to his dad and stuff, and then there's all this back and forth. I mean, let's be real, Lewis definitely would have checked the market, whoever in his team did, whether it's him, his dad, someone else, even if it was just his dad who is connected in some way with Christian, having a phone call and then just asking a couple of questions, right? Even if it's that vague, you'd be stupid as a driver not to do it.
Correct.
Would it be career suicide? 100%. 100%. I don't know whether it would end up being suicide for him or Verstappen. Okay. It would. One of them would come out on top. That's all I know. It would just be such a poor. Just the explosiveness of that relationship would be. You couldn't do it.
No, you really couldn't. And I think it's really important to understand in this circumstance, if Max went to Mercedes, it'd be career suicide for Max and vice versa, because those cars and that team are around those two drivers. So if you go into Max's team, you're going to get slaughtered. Yeah. Really. It's just the way it's going to be. He'll be closer than Perez because we know he's better than Perez. But it's still not set up around him. So
it's not you're not going to get the love because they're going to be focused on Max and vice versa. I know they do balance it a little better at Mercedes where they give Russell a bit of attention, but they still ultimately, it's Lewis that's kind of the head of the team.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
All right. Well, let's have a little chat about a couple of items that were race dependent. So, Perez's move on Lando, was it deserving of the 5-second penalty?
Flat out no.
Okay.
No. I play on. They got into the corner. Yes, he got pushed wide. Lando took the escape essentially and maintained position. I didn't have a problem with that either. And for me, play on. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Go racing. Yeah,
he was hard done by in my opinion too. I think Lando ended up further up the road.
Yep.
There was just it was just an incident. Lando was up the road. A bit of lost time for Perez, who had to actually take the corner.
Yep.
Play on. I don't know why that was issued.
No, I don't either. That one was a bit of a brain fade from the officials, in my opinion. It just didn't need to happen. It's racing. We want to see them racing. We want to see them go toe to toe. No one got hit in terms of damage or anything like that. Just play on. Let's get race. Pardon. Let's go racing.
Let's go racing.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
All right. So, moving on to the next thing, which I think is a hot topic for you, Damo.
Yes.
Brake test by Alonso on Hamilton.
Yeah. So confusing from the stewards where they apply a 5-second penalty to something that probably didn't need it. And then having no penalty for Alonso. Now, the brake test is pretty evident when you view the onboards both of Hamilton and Alonso. So Alonso came out of the pits, was trying to make a play to get the DRS, so wanted to let Lewis by, made the assumption that Lewis would try and have a go down the inside. Lewis didn't. Alonso braked early, and yeah, Hamilton had to take sort of a bit of avoiding action. So this, our last one that we're going to do is about Verstappen and his overtakes in the pits. Now, to set the scene a little bit, obviously the prior rounds, there was some challenges with the minimum lap times out on the track. Then they allowed it in Sao Paulo in Brazil because it's a nice wide pit lane.
Yep.
They allowed people, right, if you're going to hang back, move to one side, let people through. So everything was hunky-dory.
Yep.
In typical FIA fashion, nobody addressed anything about it. So people were making assumptions that, well, you're not meant to overtake, or because it's too skinny. They weren't keeping to the one side. Max was making the adjustment like, well, hang on, we got told we can pass. He didn't want to hang around. An absolute schmozzle. It just got a massive balls up. Again, caused by the FIA.
Yep, well, we know how you feel about it. But I must admit, I saw this live and thought, wow. I wouldn't have done that because the two cars in front were weaving, and it could have been an absolute crash. So thankfully nobody crashed and everyone got through unscathed. I don't think there's any room for this in the sport. I think we need to make sure that in pit lanes we're not overtaking, just like under safety car, you're not overtaking. The only time that I think this is okay is when we see at some places there's spots right at the end to do a launch.
Yep.
And the cars stop there to do that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the actual overtake in pit lane thing while cars are moving and so forth, nah, just can't do it. It's too dangerous. Anything could happen.
Yeah, I mean, they were very lucky that no one ended up with damage because the point where it might have been, I think it was Hamilton or maybe it was George, but but moved over, and it was just like, oh my god, like this is an absolute schmozzle.
Well, I don't know what was in Max's head because, like, honestly, if you saw cars weaving like that as you're going, would you even try it? I wouldn't attempt to go past them. I'd just wait. You got 5 seconds, man. Like.
Yeah, I know. But this is all born from the other issue of they've set a minimum time so you don't have that danger out on the track, and all it's done is moved it into the pit lane. And so, Max, I don't understand because he pushed past, went round, and then basically backed everybody back up again and ended up behind George anyway because George overtook him towards the end. So, like, I really feel like I don't want to get this. It's almost like a dictatorship, but it says people go out in this order and this is what you do. But if they don't find a rule or a way of managing it better, the FIA, it's going to be a problem ongoing because all drivers are going to be pushing, braking to give themselves space. They'll be doing it themselves, and unless they're told what they can and can't do officially, that's how it's going to roll.
Out of curiosity, do we need a secondary session like what IndyCar are doing, whereby they have half the field that's at the bottom of the run from the previous rounds go out and then half the field go out in a second? I know it's not fair in terms of how the track is set up, but also how else do you manage it? Yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to get that authoritative over it, but they've got to do something. So I'm whinging about the problem with no solution, that's for sure. But maybe there's just got to be a better way.
Definitely agree. All right, Damo, so it's moving right along to predictions.
Oh, did I go well or did I
don't know, mate. Well, I haven't even looked at it.
I think I did better than you.
Yeah, you probably did. I was washed. Right, I did go pretty bold last week, as you would have seen or heard. So the results of qualifying for the top three were Verstappen, Leclerc and Piastri. And to be fair, there was two in there.
Let me just check my excuse book.
There were two in there, they just weren't in the right order.
Yes, yeah, I admit Piastri was a bit of a surprise. It was good that he got up there, you know, had a cracking year all over. But yeah, that was ambitious by you for pole, and at least that was, you know, it was good for the content. But yes.
I will say, well done, mate. Max on pole.
Leclerc second.
Right. Leclerc second.
Perez failed me again.
Yeah, Perez might have failed you there. But,
well, he failed me here and in the race result too.
Yeah.
God damn it.
That always happens.
Well, if he didn't get the penalty,
You're on.
Yes.
You're on. Absolutely. All right. So for the race result, we had Verstappen, Leclerc, and Russell, courtesy of a Perez penalty.
And I had Max, Leclerc, and Perez. God damn it!
This close. So if Leclerc wasn't playing games, mate, you might have been right.
Yeah. I must admit, your bold prediction, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri.
Not quite there.
That was a swing and a miss.
It was. Look, you know, I actually thought that McLaren would be a lot stronger in the race than they ended up being, so it was a bold prediction, but I didn't think it was quite that bold per se, but it turned out to be a little too bold. So I absolutely bombed.
Yes. Well, we'll look at making it a bit more official, a bit more structure around it for next year when we do our predictions. We're working on what format that might look like, but yeah, we'll try and make it a bit more important for us with some points and stuff, and hopefully open it up to the audience as well.
That's right. We might try and run a thing with you guys as well as us, and see where we all end up and see who's washed and who's not.
Yes. But I guess that's it from us for this wrap up of Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
And the wrap up of the year, I guess, is still to come. We want to basically do an assessment and see how things go. So the videos that will be coming up will be all about the full year review.
Yep.
And then along with some other exciting stuff that we're planning, where might be some outdoors stuff. There might be some more people. Yeah, we're really going to try and mix it up and just keep trying to improve as we go.
That's right. Bring some content to you guys that hopefully you enjoy, and you know, we enjoy bringing it to you. So thanks again for tuning in. Remember, at the Valve Bounce across all social media platforms that we're a part of, and yeah, we will see you in the next one.
We will. See you next time.
See you guys.